Now the girl's hair is a little more complicated, but it's kind of the same sort of process. There's just more sections to divide up. Okay, again, you have to look for those clusters of hair. The sides are pretty simple. Okay, it's vertical. Now again, I gave it a light base of gray because this is not going to be white. You're going to leave those lighter spots for, the face, the whites of the eyes. So again, I just gave it a gray tone as a base to start from. Okay, along your sides, it's going to be pretty dark. Okay, you'll use your vertical strokes right there. But anyway, when you get up here to this, you want to look for clusters. Okay, there's a cluster here. There's a cluster here. Then you are going to have a few loose strands, which is going to be a little tricky here because you have light colored hair against light colored skin. So you will have to, you'll initially kind of draw those perhaps over the white, and then you're going to start to do some shadows, underneath of that, and those will sort of, kind of pop out. You'll have to kind of draw it as some sort of shape, kind of figure out the outline of it initially. Just don't go too heavy, with that outline shape. And then eventually, you might have to erase a little bit and kind of break that up. But again, you're going to look for general shapes at first. Okay, everything is sort of coming out of the center here, right? This is sort of the center area where all of these are kind of going into. Okay, you have this is going into there, this is going into there, this is curving up, and then you have these top hairs. I know it's cut off at the top, but you might just have to fake that a little bit. And this is sort of the dark area. This is going up. These are going up and out. These are going up and out, up and out, up and out, up and out, and they're just sort of kind of like a flower, right? They're all kind of blossoming outward from this central point, so to speak, is the general pattern. And in here is where the darkest part is. But you can kind of just form your shapes very generally speaking, and just kind of look for clusters. You can look for big clusters, like I could go all the way, let's take this shape here, right? Go around something like this, go in. Then maybe you've got something over here. It's kind of broken up along here, comes over. Then you got a few loose strands kind of in here. We can kind of treat those like sort of a cluster, because then you have all this dark hair. So these lighter strands are in front of these darker areas that are over here. And then you take your section. So we had one here, we had this, and then we have this dark area in between. Right? And you can kind of start to shade like that and sort of separate, and then even separate your clusters into smaller clusters. And it's going to look real weird, like a bunch of abstract shapes at first. Okay, but it will slowly emerge into what you want it to be. It'll just be confusing at first. But those are the things to look for. See them as shapes. See shapes, not lines. You got to have shapes. If you want three-dimensional and you want volume, you have to see shapes first before you worry about lines. And then, like before, like on the guy, then eventually once you have these shapes, then you get down to the small details, okay? Like you have these strands here, right? And you separate that. This comes in like that, right? And then you have another group in here. And then, let's just take this little bit. Am I still on screen? Yes. Okay, and you start to run those directional strokes, and maybe I start to go a little bit darker. I know it's light, but okay, and then I start to shade a little bit, have that come in, and then you get those few light strands. I should sharpen my pencil here. And then again, it's a flick of the wrist, right, to get it to taper. A little bit darker and comes out into the light first of all too. We can get some of that shading. I kind of went a little bit too far. I'd have to go back a little bit, but you got this dark area here, this dark area here. Starts to come in and separate. And then you get those, let me sharpen my, I'm connected to my headphones and it's plugged in. It's like that scene from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, if you saw that movie. The one that made my wife laugh the most. Okay. And then just do a few of those dark lines and flick the wrist to kind of make it look like strands that are sort of separated there. You don't need every single solitary strand, right? A few flicks of the wrist and a few strands, and it looks like hair. Okay, and then you just kind of keep building that up from there. Just keep in mind, doing the hair can take as long as doing the whole rest of the face. So if you're going to do a good job with it, it just takes patience, that's all.